Leading live on your radio, y'all get on back in here as we're really wrapping up the functional part of the road trip. Nothing super fancy today, just using the remote studio here on our way home in Little Rock today, chipping away at the way home. Do appreciate all the folks that have been able to follow us. AJ, I'm homesick, man. I'm ready to get home. I'm ready for the routine. I'm ready to get back in the studio and kind of get back to the routine. But it's been fun and not much to report from Little Rock. And all this Friday stuff that's going on. Of course, the thing that's really got us going at the top of the hour is the weather, because here in about an hour or two, depending on where you are in the listening area, we're about to get a deluge. Could be a lot of thunder and lightning, some really heavy downpours. Some of this has already made its way over into the Atlanta area today, and they had some localized flooding around the Atlanta suburbs. And this is the very same system, really, even though we're talking about the Alabama weather and the Birmingham weather. But again, the future radar, when you try to put these things in motion and figure out where this stuff's going, looks like it kind of bubbles up and lands on Birmingham somewhere right before 5 o'clock. So just a heads up, if you're out doing your Friday things and trying to get around, might need to look out for that or plan around that. Roads could be a little dicey here in a little bit. All of this stuff is not expected to turn severe. It's below severe parameters, but we'll keep an eye on it. Douglas Cooling and Heating bringing you the show today. Speaking of weather, boy, it's going to be hot next week. I mean hot next week, like in the mid to upper 90s for a good portion of the week. High heat indices and or the feels like temperature maybe in the triple digits. I saw one forecast yesterday that may have us in just the actual temperature in triple digits. So July is going to go out with a bang. If you're struggling with your heating and air and it's just not sleeping well at night, it doesn't seem to be cooling well in this intense heat, this kind of weather will expose your system. If you've neglected it and not done the maintenance, man, it could just go pop. And then what happens is a lot of times our heating and air companies, all of them, will get super busy during this time of the year. So here's the deal. Reach out to my friends at Douglas, get to know them, get them on out, and have them do a service work before something goes wrong. And here's what you're going to find. You're going to find an honest company, and I mean that. That's why I've used them for 17 years. They've been at it since 1972. They actually publish their prices and their payments in their finance plan. Yes, they have finance plans to help you take care of this if you need to have something done like a whole new install. They got finance plans that start as low as $74 a month. And so they try to come up with every way they can to make it easy on you. And here's the best part. If they can fix it, they're going to fix it, because they think when they treat you like that and are honest with you about their services, you're going to call them again when it is time for some of the bigger stuff like a new install, and you'll become very loyal to that company like I've been. So it could be something minor or it could be a cleaning. You'd be surprised when your system can function and breathe and keep going a little bit longer. They love to see how much life they can stretch out of these systems. But when it's time for a replacement, like I said, this family-owned and operated company will be able to help you get financed. They got 4.9 stars on Google. This is from not just me saying it. These are their customers and your neighbors all around Birmingham. This is a company, again, I've trusted for everything. Installs, emergency work, second opinions, plumbing. They had to come out and find a leak for me one time. I got a $3,000 water bill, and I went, wait a minute. And they helped me track that down, got that fixed in a hurry. Y'all, it is calldouglas.com. License number 2017181, calldouglas.com. All right, if y'all want to jump in here, we can try to have a little bit of fun on this Friday, or we can get serious because we got both today in the news. Let me throw this at you real quick, just some straight political stuff, kind of take care of some of this business while we're at it. So as we head toward the midterms, a lot of talk's already shifted toward the presidential elections, but you've still got people trying to handicap which way the midterms are going to go. There's a generic ballot poll out today that actually looks pretty good for the Republicans. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, history does not favor the Republicans in this moment. An off-year election, second-term president, and some of the other fundamental things. A lot of folks get obsessed with gas prices. That won't be the sole issue. It could be Trump's personality itself that's on the ballot, and Republicans are scared of him because he does stuff. They don't seem to know how to do stuff. A lot of frustration right now with the United States Senate and John Thune for being a giant wimp. and not knowing how to whip a vote and lean on his members. And even our own senators, they ought to be camped out in Lisa Murkowski's office. Katie Britt ought to be cooking s'mores in her lobby with a tent until that woman comes around. Our own senators, they have more influence on each other than you realize. It's a relationship-oriented chamber, unlike the House, which is kind of the Wild West, and a whole lot of them. There's just 100 of these guys and just 53 in the Republican caucus. They actually really get to know each other. And we had this little distraction with, sadly, Lindsey Graham's passing, I guess, but these people are about to go home for their August recess, and they won't be in session for a month. And I've been telling you for months now, the SAVE Act's dead. But regardless of that, if they don't fix our system, you've still got to rely on whatever data you can get. Some of that is poll data. Some of that is demographics and patterns in these various swing districts. There are not that many districts up for grabs. I mean, we're down to the whole country, because of the way we draw districts nowadays, is really only looking at about 19 different districts that could control the fate of the House in particular. And then, of course, the state Senate elections in the states. Here's the poll, though, and it's interesting. There's something called the generic ballot. And the generic ballot, and I've explained this many, many times in the past, is basically a brand test for each party. They'll go to the voters in these polls and ask, who do you favor on this issue or that issue or overall? And sometimes Democrats will win on things that are traditionally Democrat, the environment, education, those things, despite the fact that they've screwed us on both. And Republicans will win on other issues. The economy, of course, is the big jump ball that they all want to have the best ideas on. But generically, when you test the two parties, the Democrats tend to have a huge advantage. It's just that way. I think part of it's a functional bias with the way polling is done. Part of it is just people's knee-jerk reactions to poll questions. But even when they get their asses kicked, they'll have a lead in the generic ballot test of at least 4 or 5 points. It's just something pollsters have become accustomed to. When those numbers move, though, when they change, people start raising an eyebrow, just at least one, maybe 2 eyebrows. But except for Nancy Pelosi, who can't raise any eyebrows. So here's what we have. The new generic ballot test is out this afternoon, and it's only got the Democrats up to 46-44, which is interesting. And it tells, again, this can't predict individual races, but it starts to read the room, so to speak. It starts to get the temperature of which party is not on the up. Now, these things have been wrong before. We had people that got caught up in a big red wave a while back that didn't manifest itself. Or did it? Nowadays, I don't know. We go back, I bet we can go back to 2008 and find shenanigans in our elections. We didn't really start paying attention until they overreached in 2020. But the other good news for Republicans is Trump is actually only underwater, so to speak, negative versus approval versus disapproval by 2 points. Now, some of you might think, well, that's bad. He's in the negative. Obama was in the negative almost the whole time he was president and left the White House after 8 years as, in a positive fashion with being supported by his party. It is how we're divided nowadays. If any president's in, you actually rarely get a positive over negative rating unless, it's post 9/11 and you're George Bush and you just stood on the rubble pile. You hadn't gotten us involved in a bunch of unnecessary stuff yet and made some mistakes as Bush did. There are moments when presidents do enjoy a lot of approval, but not since Reagan have we really seen that go very, very positive. And don't throw Bill Clinton at me because I'm standing here in Little Rock, not far from his presidential library and massage parlor. That is an homage to Rush Limbaugh, by the way. Bill Clinton never had a majority when he won the presidency. He never won the popular vote. He was elected with, I think it was 42 and then 49% of the vote in both of those elections. But when you've got the media to trumpet and give amplification to you and pretend that you're the most popular guy that ever peed in the White House, then, of course, you're going to be seen that way by sort of, I guess, public opinion or general consensus. But when you look at the data, we just don't fall in love with our presidents anymore. I think Reagan is the last president that just had serious majorities. The guy won 48 states at one point. But those days are over. We're a divided nation. We are at best 50-50. And so when the polling gets tight and we get into the midterms, again, when you measure this against history, that poll is actually good for Republicans. It doesn't show them dominating, doesn't even show them actually winning, but that's the fertile ground you want to have if you're heading into a midterm election where there's a lot going on. Things could go sideways in the Middle East tomorrow night. The gas price is still pressuring people, and despite the fact that every single economic indicator is better in the last, all of them are better. Unemployment, all of this stuff better. Crime's down. People don't sit around and study these numbers. They just feel how they feel at the grocery store and the gas pump. And there's still a malaise in the country. There's still people that feeling like they can't keep caught up. And there are a lot of reasons for that. We'll, of course, talk about it as the year goes on. But there's a quick poll sample from a poll that came in just a little while ago today that some nerds like myself are talking about. All right, let me get the break in here, and then we'll get this Tim Sheehy soundbite in here because I just think it's important. And we'll play about 3 or 4 minutes of it. It was a floor speech about the Iran situation. It was the sincerity and the emotion of it that have a lot of people sharing this today. So I wanted to share that with you here on this Friday. Y'all, Ox Foundation Solutions, speaking of rain and water and weather and all the things that can happen to your house, Ox is the company I trust to come and take care of whatever you've got going on with your house. Now, sometimes it's a problem. You smell it, you feel it, you know it, you know something's wrong. You're not going to crawl under there. I'm not going to crawl under there if it's a crawl space. But the pros at Ox have the tools to diagnose what's going on and to dry you out, to level your home, to fix those shifts and cracks, to get that water, or, of course, to do the things like mold removal, which is a big, big deal. You really can sense it better in the humid months like we're having now. It's just like pouring gas on a fire, and there is no way for you to do this yourself. You've got to have the equipment for it, and you got to get all of it or it comes right back. Ox has a remediation program to get this out of your house and to dry you out and, of course, encapsulate you so you don't have to worry about it anymore. With the home edition that I'm doing, just adding some square footage, they'll be out soon. In fact, I talked to a county inspector today about that, and I appreciate the good work those guys are doing, keeping up with my project. But they're going to be doing some encapsulation for that space as well. I just wouldn't build it any other way, and it's good to do it on the front end. So whether it's new construction or some issue you're having, it is oxstrong.com. oxstrong.com. Real quick break. Back here in just a minute. Y'all stay tuned. It's 322, Leland Live, talking to M5 on the road in Little Rock, Arkansas today. I need more caffeine, AJ. I'm just stumbling over my words right now. Trying to make my way home, little road weary and ready to be back in Sweet Home, Alabama. Michelson Laser Vision. I feel like they're almost the sponsor of the show because I use my eyes to see all these things out here. And man, getting LASIK around 7 years ago was life-changing. It really was. I'll never forget the first friend that told me that had done it, and he came up to me. He used to work with us. He came up to me in the hall and said, "Oh, man," he goes, "you should try it." I had glasses on. He goes, "Why are you still wearing glasses?" He challenged me, and I said, "Man, I'm not getting lasered in the face. Are you kidding?" He goes, "It'll change your life." I thought, because of my arrogance back then, that he was just bragging about the procedure because he'd spent the money on it. I was wrong. He was right. It did change my life, and had I not gone down and done my due diligence, I'd still be walking around with those smudgy glasses and contacts, waking up in the middle of the night to go pee and running into walls. I mean, come on, man. I can see all the time. I'm 20/15, and I plan on staying that way with Michelson Laser Vision. It's the legendary practice in downtown Birmingham, and if you're in glasses or contacts, you really do owe it to yourself to at least decide if it's right for you, or have them decide whether or not you're a good candidate for it. Some people just won't be. Michelson Laser Vision, Dr. Mark, Dr. Jennifer, the family practice, downtown UAB Highlands. Go check it out for yourself, michelsonlaservision.com. All right, AJ, if you could, pull up that Tim Sheehy, and I hope I'm pronouncing Sheehy, I guess is how he pronounces his name. This is a senator from Montana, former military guy. He gave a very impassionate speech about what we're confronting with Iran on the floor of the Senate. AJ, you might want to start at maybe 30 seconds in. They get these 5-minute floor speeches, and I think right off the bat you'll get a sense of it. But I really wanted to share this on the show. We've had sound bites in the last couple of weeks from Rubio that I think were shareable. The interview between Elon Musk and that snotty woman at The Economist is just epic. But this is important. This is probably the most important speech of the week from one of our senators, believe it or not. Take a listen to this.
Participated in many of those ceremonies myself, to include carrying friends of mine off the plane. One of those is on this bracelet. He was cut in half by an Iranian EFP. This regime that we are fighting does not care about our partisan politics. They don't care who you voted for, who you pray to, or where you live. They want to kill all of us. And they don't just say it, they actually do it. And they've been doing it for 47 years. This is a war of choice. The Democrats are correct. It's a war of choice that was begun by a radical, lunatic band of terrorists that took over a beautiful nation 47 years ago. Took it over with brutality, force, and savagery. And the second they took it over, they didn't free their people. They didn't unleash the largest oil reserves in the world to build schools and bridges. They took it over to murder their own people and to spread their disgusting ideology across the world, and that is exactly what they have been doing. They don't just say it and talk about it. You don't have to believe what they say. You can simply watch what they've done. They have attacked families, women, children, innocent people. They don't just attack them and kill them. They rape them. They skin them alive on camera. They celebrate it. They honor those people who do disgusting things that we would put in jail for the rest of their lives in this country. And they do it for fun, and they pay them money to do it, and they're heroes to that nation. They've done it to friends of mine. They've done it to families who've been in this chamber. And the fact that we sit here and listen to elected officials of this country defend these lunatics who want us all dead. They want all of you dead. They want all of us dead. They don't want us to disappear with the snap of a finger. They want us to be raped, burned alive, and cut into pieces. Watch the video from October 7th. That's what they want to happen from Maine to San Diego, from Seattle to Miami. They want this country turned into a burning husk of its former self. And you don't have to theorize that. That's what they do. From the 1983 barracks bombing, where 280 Marines were vaporized in the morning, from USS Cole to the Achille Laurel to every terrorist attack, from the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. These are not humanitarian freedom organizations. They are death-dealing cults, and they want all of us to die brutal deaths. William Buckley was abducted in 1985, an American military officer. He was skinned alive on camera by the Iranians. American prisoners of war who were captured. They were never called prisoners of war because they were captured by lunatic terrorists, so they were not subject to the Geneva Convention. They were captured and murdered, power drills through their brains. This is in Iraq. These are families that have dealt with this, and they've never gotten a single dime. These families have never gotten restitution, and not a single president has ever stood up to them. Love Donald Trump or hate him, love his policies, hate ICE, love ICE, whatever. There's never been a single president who has stood up to Iran and hit back. For 47 years, our troops and our families have been absorbing attack after attack after attack all over the world. And their radical ideology does not stop at the Persian Gulf. It doesn't stop at Tel Aviv. They want to do this everywhere. It's a global radical ideology. And we've been fighting it for half a century. We didn't start this war. We did not, but we will finish it. And forever wars are not popular with anybody these days. Both sides of that, I love to attack our forever wars. And I can promise you, being someone overseas wearing the uniform, when you're fighting for your country, you don't care what party's in office, but you're fighting to defend your country. And you turn on the news and see your elected officials stabbing you in the back, telling you that you're failing, that you failed every goal of the war. Is what I just heard. Last time I checked,
that was so. We got to get to the bottom of the hour, Brady. That is worth you looking up and watching. If somebody shares it with you, just watch it. And see her back here in just a minute. Stay tuned. All right, let's do this thing. Leland Live, talking 9095. You need the show this hour. TAPCO, that stands for Total Automotive Performance Company. They're at downtown Birmingham. That's Michael's shop. He's the one that vetted my Jeep for me. He's my go-to guy from now on when it comes to any issues with any of the family cars or trucks or SUVs. As soon as I get back, I've got an issue. I got an issue on my pickup truck. It's getting a little older, so there's some bushings that really hold the body to the frame that have kind of dry rotted. I'll never forget when I talked to Michael about that. I just described it to him in about 2 sentences, and he immediately knew what it was. I mean, this is just how good they are. He said, it's probably the bushings, and I crawled under there that weekend. Here's my funny story about Michael. I crawled under my truck in the barn and decided to check it for myself because I'm cheap like that. And I thought maybe that's something I can knock out. And sure enough, I found the bushings and reached up and grabbed one of them, and it just disintegrated in my hand. These rubberized bushings had just gotten old. And so I get on YouTube, and I thought, let me see how hard this project is. Let me find somebody on here that's doing it. So I found this podcast or this video channel about fixing cars, and it was called Busted Knuckle or I don't know, something like that. The guy was really good. He had a good production value. And he had my same truck. He was doing the same project. I thought, this is it. He'll show me how to do it. And here's what the guy said. I had just met Michael like 4 days before. Right there on YouTube, I'm sitting there in my office in my barn, and he goes, so I'm going to take this down to my buddy Michael in Birmingham and have them put these on for me because it's pretty involved. And sure enough, that whole episode was about this project. Right then I said, why am I thinking about doing this? Michael is my shop. Without their expertise, I might have taken off on this trip with some stuff that could have really gone wrong on that Jeep that we're towing. But instead, it's been a great trip. That thing's run like a champ, and I trust Michael to do my work. So you do like me. Take your stuff down there for oil changes and brakes and all the little things, the routine things that we have to do from time to time. Then when something goes wrong that makes your heart sink because a light comes on or a noise pops up or something ain't right, then you've got a relationship with an outstanding service center in downtown Birmingham. They're so good, Aaliyah uses them for their fleet management in the cars that they have in our part of Alabama. And that's because they get these. And, man, Aaliyah drives these cars hard. They have to. It's their job. And Michael keeps them on track for them so that law enforcement can get out there and do their thing. It's a great shop. Get to know Michael. By the way, they got a courtesy vehicle. They'll give you a ride back to your workplace if you want to drop your ride off in the morning. If it's one of those day projects, they'll work that out with you. How nice. It's Tapco, T-A-P-C-O, tapcobeham.com, tapcobeham.com. All right, I'm going to get on the phones, and I appreciate the calls, 545-9950. We'll start going back about things. We do have some really strong storms about to fire up somewhere close to 5 o'clock. Of course, if they turn nasty flood watches for part of our area this afternoon, too. The good news is the forecasters have backed off the flooding and or storm threat for tomorrow, which is good news because I got to get home and do a bunch of work at the house. And a lot of you, too, for your weekend. It's not a complete washout for tomorrow. So maybe we get through this afternoon and this evening storms, and we're going to be good to go. Let's go to line 4 and Tom over in Callear to get us started on the phones this afternoon. Tom, what's on your mind, man?
Hi, Guy.
Hey.
I was just wondering, since you are out there in Middle America, the common sense things that we feel about, like here in Alabama, are they the same out there? Now, we already know what the East and West Coast are all about, communism, and I don't know what in the heck them damn fools are in California and whatnot. But I was wondering, just the regular folks, we went to Utah a couple of times, and I met a bunch of Mormons, and damn thing, they drink more beer than I did. But we all got along real good.
Yep.
And, of course, they kept throwing up how the Utes beat the hell out of Alabama. I said, well, yeah, that was one game. I said, how many national championships y'all got? What? And I was kind of persona non grata there for a while.
Yeah.
Since I was paying for that wagon train trip, they had to talk to me. But I was just wondering, and you talk to non-celebrity people, the everyday people.
Listen, everywhere I've been, you'll be and I say this all the time, every time I do one of these trips, I think in Alabama we start to buy into this sort of gaslighting that we live in a redneck bubble, isolated in the South. The rest of the country doesn't think like we do, that somehow our way of thinking is backward. And then you hit the road and you find out that the patriotism out there. Now, granted, I was out west during July 4th, and even in super liberal Jackson, Wyoming, it's probably the most liberal place other than some of the stops in Colorado. In Wyoming's an overwhelmingly red state. They got this little blue dot with the elites around Jackson Hole. But that patriotic parade for the 4th could not have been more fitting for our country's birthday. And you find patriotism everywhere. There's more love for this country than is being demonstrated by what we get. Especially if you get addicted to social media and get all that negative stuff reinforced, or you're on the Smithsonian board and you think you've got to rewrite our history and change it. It's everywhere you go out here. Okay.
The burning point I have is I watch primarily Newsmax, not so much Fox News anymore. But then they give voice to The View and these other knuckleheads that otherwise us non-liberal folks wouldn't know nothing about. We don't want
I'm okay with
crap.
that. If you don't want to hear it, tune it out. If you don't mind hearing it, I don't mind hearing it because I'm secure in my beliefs. I think these people are idiots and I'm amused by some of their beliefs, so I don't mind listening to it.
And one more quick thing I'm going to run by you and see what you think about this, okay?
All right.
I've said this for years. I'm 75 years old. I've been saying this, I swear to God, for over 40 years. We need somebody like Elon Musk that can take this flood water. You see all these floods, right?
Yeah.
Where does that water go? If somebody could capture that water, you have to clean it up because, it's pretty well putrefied, right, or whatever. If they could clean that up and use it just for fires, that would save a lot of land, I think.
Well, moving that volume of water is something that God already worked out for us, and there are probably more efficient and better ways to do that. Transporting water out of the Mississippi Basin to the dry west would probably not even be functional. I'm not sure you can move that much water that way.
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm saying it. Just bigger minds than mine. But I hope you're enjoying that trip. I love it out there. I was stationed in California 5 years in the early 70s before it became so wacko.
Yep.
It's still the prettiest state we got. I don't care what anybody says.
It's a beautiful state for sure.
But the state is beautiful. And I hope
Tom, I appreciate you, man.
Wonderful trip, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you. I tell you, when you get out into some of the, especially the more liberal areas. I mean, Colorado has just turned into, it's like California in the mountains in terms of the people and some of their politics. But man, don't let a conversation come up with the right. Well, I'm just saying, you run into certain people out there, and it's like they're in the closet. This must be how the gays felt for that long. And they can't mention their beliefs about patriotism or anything. But I wind up in conversations, oh, you're from Alabama. The next question everybody always says is, so what do you do? And then sometimes I just don't want to work. I just don't want to get into it. We had a whole show on this one time. We decided I could tell people I work for the IRS, and then they just walk off and leave me alone. But, I said, well, I do a little radio show back in Alabama. What's the show about? Well, here we go. Now they've identified my politics, and then they just have this moment where they burst out and want to share their opinions. They can't believe they're talking to a person that also shares their love of country and patriotism and tradition and, hell, civilization nowadays, which is also under attack. So it's refreshing to them to meet us, the ambassadors from our part of the country. But you're going to find everywhere you go, there are a lot of things that we do and don't do alike. But you get into certain parts of this country, and it's more reinforcing. They may be even, in some ways, more patriotic than some folks that get lazy or take it for granted because we live in a red state than we even see day to day around Alabama. I'll tell you something funny, though, that I observed this morning. So Oklahoma, I consider Oklahoma a southern state. I mean, we've roped them all into the SEC, so it's the South. They're still kind of in between being in the Southwest and the South. So we came out of Oklahoma this morning, drove about, 150 miles to get to Arkansas. And I'm telling you, when you get in Arkansas, you're getting into the South. And So I was just you observe the changes when you drive 300 or 400 miles in a morning. And as we're getting right into Arkansas, right at the Arkansas border coming out of Oklahoma, was this giant 10 Commandments display out in a field. And this guy had also put up a big, looked like it was about a 10-foot wide MAGA hat. It was just a big red hat in his field. And he had all this patriotic stuff in the field. I mean, it was right at the line, like I'd crossed back into the South. What was funny to me was the minute I did that, and then the windshield fogged up because the humidity was back. And I had it real cold in here, and I hit some humidity, and the windshield started fogging up. And I hadn't seen, in that very dry part of the country, hadn't seen fog on the windshield in forever. So it just made me smile this morning. I kind of chuckled. I was drinking my coffee, going, I'm back in the Southland now with the humidity and all of that kind of stuff. So I enjoy watching the transition. But a good question, Tom. I don't mind entertaining. If y'all want to get in here, 2545-9950. Let's talk about our southernness and our one of the things we do a lot, and this is backed up by statistical data. We spend a lot of time outside. And for that reason and a lot of other reasons, I'm just going to throw it in there. Back in the 70s and 80s, we were absolute rednecks about getting sunburned. We just were not educated on it. We would go out in the 80s and intentionally try to, there was this, some of y'all remember this, there was this myth that if you got a good burn at the beginning of the summer season, you would burn and peel, and then you wouldn't burn again. It was like you had to go ahead and get it over with, and then you'd sort of get a tan from there. People actually believed damage. And your body, the way it was initially described to me at Southern Skies Dermatology, you actually do damage to your individual skin cells down to the DNA. There's DNA damage from some of that UV overexposure. And as most of you know, as you go through life, your skin cells replicate each other. And as it makes another copy of itself and then sheds that cell, it's like when you put a bunch of things on a photocopier and you keep making copies of the copy, they kind of fade. That's kind of what happens with our skin cells over time. And as we age, at some point, that damage, which has traveled with us for 25 years, it can suddenly become skin cancer. And then it can just become egregious. I was listening to a doctor talk this morning on another show, and he was talking about how melanoma used to be a death sentence. And now that all that's changed, my mom is a living witness to it. But it's still dangerous, and it's still important that you get ahead of it and know it as early as you can to get these removals done. The treatment is for this kind of, when it travels internally, has become miraculous nowadays. They're saving lives. But it really comes down to us to do the screening. If you're lazy or tuning me out, or you don't think it's your problem right now because you hadn't noticed anything, you could wind up with something that you can't even see. It's on your back or in a place you don't see or don't want to look. Go get checked. That's my bottom line, and do it at the place that's dedicated 100% 24/7 to nothing but skin cancer, and that's Southern Skies Dermatology. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Dr. Mario is a Mohs expert, and this is how you want to have removals done. Let me give you a quick explanation of that. It's micrographic, which means they take out a micro layer at a time, they examine it as they go, and they stop when they've got all the skin cancer. That way they don't have to keep removing tissue, and it minimizes the scarring, speeds up the healing. It also means they know they got it. In the old days, they just barbarically guess at it and hope they didn't leave any residual cells. You don't want to have a removal like that. Get it done at Southern Skies Dermatology. And take care of yourself. Look out for these things and do your part. It's SouthernSkiesDermatology.com, SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Back here in just a minute. All right, let's talk about work trucks. If you're in business, and sometimes we'll address this to more than business. If you're a church, man, sometimes you need a church van to haul people, or for one of your programs, or you need a van to do some of your services or outreach or your mission work. Usually, those are going to be commercial based, like a business would buy. It's just they're no frills, base white, on vehicles that you can always wrap and put your logos on, but it's a staple of a lot of things, nonprofits, for-profits, all of us. It's nice to know we have work trucks in downtown Birmingham because these are specialty vehicles. Some of you are looking for particular designs or outfittings or layouts that are unique to your industry, and you can find that. You can get online and search and search and search, and then you can go drive somewhere a long way away and take a look at the thing. But Work Trucks has done a lot of that for you. They found these things at the off-lease auctions, which most of us wouldn't have access to. They found the best ones, the lowest miles. They keep a nice variety, hundreds of commercial vehicles at any moment down at Work Trucks. And then they have this 125-point program that they take very seriously. And so they're going to spend all that time going through these before they even present them to the public. That means instead of you chasing that and trying to track that down for yourself and do all that haggling, they have saved you a lot of time and made it more efficient for you to focus on your revenue, focus on what you do for a living. And of course, they've got financing and all the things you would need. And because they're pre-owned, you're going to save money on that too. It's just a really cool way to expand your fleet, manage your fleet, start a fleet if you're just going out there yourself to get in business. It's called Work Trucks. Bubba and his team are just good folks. You'll know it when you get in there and get to meet them. And if they don't have what you want, they'll go track it down for you. They'll go find it out there in the world and in the wild and get it back here so you can, again, slap that logo on there and get back to work. It is Work Trucks. Put an X in there, TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com. All right, I want to get off on something fun for because we've been real news heavy this afternoon. We had a Trump live for a little while. I just saw this today. I didn't even know it's coming. I don't really keep up with Hollywood, and I guess sometimes people know these projects are coming out. But I thought it was AI when I first watched it. And I went, "Is that AI? Is that a joke?" You can't tell anymore. But it was Johnny Depp walking around as Ebenezer Scrooge, and it turns out there is a Scrooge movie coming out in November starring Depp, who hadn't made a movie in a long time. And so folks seem to be pretty fired up about it. It looks like the production value is good. I think it's the same folks that have worked with him on some of his other bigger hits. I guess the Pirates of the Caribbean and what was it? Scissorhands. AJ's the movie expert. But I hope just in time for Christmas Hollywood's got to find its way again and start going back and doing some honest presentations instead of agenda stuff. And I think at some point economics are going to dictate that because they're going to wind up with competition. Just like they're seeing with some of this other pablum that they're putting out. What was funny to me, too, is because a lot of times we're talking about the woke casting and rewriting of old themes to try to change the meaning of them and the stuff like they just did with the Odyssey and all that. But I was looking, I was like, it's a wonder they didn't put like a blue-haired lesbian as Scrooge. And then it hit me. I thought, wait a minute, mean old guy, got to be a white boy. So he was a shoo-in for that part. They weren't going to cast Goldberg as Scrooge this time. White guys get all those kind of roles. So just saying, way to go, Johnny Depp. We'll see how that works out. The makeup, the way it was presented, the little trailer that they put out there does look intriguing. And maybe give you all something looking forward to. A Christmas classic kind of been reworked, I guess, for this holiday season. That's a good time to put it out, too, right there in mid-November before Thanksgiving and all that stuff. So a little Hollywood break. We'll see how that goes in a few months. 545-9950. If y'all want to get on the show, bring it. We're live in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we just got weather warnings, too. In about an hour, it looks like storms are going to fire up for the Birmingham Metro, so we got an eye on that. But it looks like some of that same stuff could come through here later tonight. I will be back home tomorrow and can't wait to get home and get back in the groove. Y'all get on in here, and we'll have a fun show for the next 2 hours. Leland Live. On the road, back in a minute. Stay tuned.